How did you find once you were sort of working on the indie circuit to get bookings? Did you find it like you were able to get bookings relatively easy? Were you having to really grind to get on shows?
Well, that was the thing about Slammers. It was Vern, as much as he would teach you, or the in-ring aspect, he never taught you how to get bookings. He never taught you, because he didn't want anybody to leave. I mean, I loved Vern and I loved Slammers, but they weren't teaching you how to get work. And I mean, I eventually left Slammers because I'd been there for about 2 years, and we would do shows, and in doing that, we would take the ring and set up the ring and everything, and we would disassemble the ring after the show and everything. But Slammers had this thing where a lot of guys left, not in the best terms with Vern, and Dynamite D being one of them. Because I knew Dynamite D from the radio. That's how I found out about Slammers, was because he had a internet wrestling. That wasn't internet, but it was a cable wrestling show, and it was he would always plug Slammers. That's how I found out about Slammers when I was like 15 or 14 years old. I even called Dynamite D and was asking him. Got on the air with him and was asking him about, like, I asked him 2 questions. I asked him, how are the Hart Foundation ever going to get back together? And how do you become a pro wrestler? And he totally kayfabed me. He was just like, well, you kind of have to know somebody in the business, or be a relative of somebody in the business. Completely kayfabed me on the whole thing. And years later, when I was 18, my dad's the one, like I said, who brought up, hey, what about that Slammers place? I was like, okay, and they were still around, but they never taught you how to get bookings. I literally, when I left Slammers, or Slammers closed down, my first real indie show I ever did, and I don't remember the name of it. I did it with Carlos. I can't remember if Ed Ferraro was with us or not. I think I did the second show with him for the same promotion. Yeah. But it was, my first payday was $25, $30, which was cool with me, because I was used to wrestling for free. I was used to paying $25 because that was part of my schooling. Wrestling in front of a live crowd, and did that. In fact, that was the first show I ever did. That's the first show I ever met Supreme and Chaos on. Was that show, and did that show. And the guy who was promoting it, I don't remember his name or anything like that, but this guy was such a blowhard, talking about how he bought airtime on like Fox Sport West and everything, and you guys need to go out there and do this. Meanwhile, it's just like one little camera over in a corner. Like, this isn't like a production thing. Like, even then I knew this guy was bullshitting. Yeah. And I eventually left. I stopped wrestling for a little bit, just because I was 18, 19 years old, and I got the ex-girlfriend, or got the girlfriend trying to keep. My parents are leaving, and just, all the crap you deal with when you're that age. Sure, my parents left. I left California for about 6 months, and I ended up moving back. And in that time, I guess that's when XPW started. And I kept in contact with Carlos, and he was telling me what's going on at Slammers and whatnot. And that was the biggest gripe with us, was just, we weren't doing anything at Slammers except wrestling at Slammers. It wasn't like we were getting work on WWE TV as jobbers or anything like that, or nothing was ever happening. And he told me about XPW, was getting excited about it. He's like, hey, they actually have a gimmick for me and everything. I was like, oh, that's good for you. And I didn't know anything. I didn't know what XPW was. One day I was watching WWE Raw, and these commercials start coming up for XPW, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, wait, I know that guy, that White Trash Johnny Webb. I was like, wait, I used to wrestle with him. And then he's with Missy Hyatt. I was like, what? Missy Hyatt's with him? What? And then I see Homeless Jimmy. I'm like, holy shit. And there's Dynamite D. I'm like, I know these guys. And I didn't put 2 and 2 together when I spoke to Carlos. I'm telling Carlos about this. He goes, oh yeah, that's the federation. That's the company I'm going to work for. I was like, really? And then he mentioned that my name had come up a couple times about whatever. I don't know. Just the guys remembered me, and he asked if I'd be interested. And I was like, yeah, of course I'll be interested. That's the thing. I never, outside of XPW, I've been very lucky where I've gotten to work. I've never had to be one of these guys who, and maybe I should have been, but I never one of these guys who put out, my promo tape, or put out my 8x10s and send them off.
Yeah.
I just never did that in XPW, or not XPW, but Slammers never taught us that anyway. So I got lucky. I was just in the right place at the right time for a lot of the things I guess I fell into or got to be a part of.
Sure. And you mentioned it, getting to work for XPW and obviously going and working for Rob Black. You know, in going there, how did you find, like, when you obviously going into that promotion for the first time, and obviously knowing about their ties to the pornographic industry, what were your initial thoughts going in and working for them?
The funny thing is, I didn't know who Rob Black was. I had no idea there was any porn ties until my first day showing up for training with the guys. We're about to walk in, and Carlos tells me, "Oh, hey, yeah, just so you know, they shoot adult movies here." And then he said, and he goes, "I think the owner's Jewish too, so don't make any Jewish jokes." And I was like, "I don't make Jewish jokes." It's like, okay, okay, fine. I didn't matter to me anyway. I don't do that anyway. So walked in, and it wasn't like there was all this porn stuff or anything. When you walked in, nothing told me that this was an adult film company. It was just this, office, this hole in the wall in the valley. And went in there, and, I was like, hey, there was Dynamite D, and hey, what's up, guys? Hey, what's going on? Saying hello to them. In fact, the week before they had done a show, I actually paid to go to the show. I don't think I've ever told anybody this because I always forget it. I paid to go to the show. I just went to the show and stood in line with everybody and watched the show. And I was like, watched it. And then when the show was done, I waited and I saw Dynamite D, and he goes, hey, what's up? I'm like, and we're talking and everything. Cause I think Carlos might've debuted that night. I can't remember. And then the following week or the following Tuesday, because XPW the wrestlers used to meet on Tuesdays. I showed up at the Tuesday meeting where we would train and everything, and trained, and we were out there just doing stuff. And I knew a lot of the guys, or I was familiar with a lot of the guys. And then, I saw Chaos and Supreme again, and I hadn't seen those guys since the couple of shows that I had done for the One Fed. And we were talking, we started training, and then I knew I had met Kevin Kleinrock, who was like the VP of XPW. Kevin was there. Kevin was actually a guy who went to Slammers to try to learn the business, but Vern wouldn't teach him anything. He was kayfabing him on the whole thing. So Kevin left Slammers, but he came by a couple times, and I talked to him, and it was a nice guy. And after the training, they had a big meeting. And I wasn't going to go into the meeting. And if I remember right, I think D, I don't know if it was D, but Kevin and White Trash Johnny Webb were like, yeah, come on, come into the meeting. It's like, oh, okay. So I just sit down in the meeting. All the chairs are taken. So I'm just squatting, like, up front. And Rob sits down, and everyone's talking, and he basically like tells everybody, shut the F up. And then he looks straight at me and goes, who the F are you? And I was like, I'm Billy. I've wrestled with these guys. And Johnny Webb looked at Rob and said, no, he's good. He's solid. He's good. Because I didn't know at the time, but Webb was working for the adult film company side doing editing. So he had Rob's ear. And basically that's how my journey into XPW started. It was that simple. And then the guys told me that they were going to come the next day after that Tuesday meeting. They were going to come on that Wednesday and train. I showed up, and nobody showed up. I think Jasmine St. Clair was shooting a scene, so a bunch of the boys went to go watch her shoot the scene or something like that. And I just stayed there, and I hadn't been in a wrestling ring in over a year. So I was just in there beating the crap out of myself, making myself bump, running myself in the corner, running the ropes and everything, just getting acclimated to the whole ring again. And every now and then Rob would, because his office was right next to where the ring was, he would peek his head out, look, wouldn't say anything. And that was that. I was there probably for like 2 hours, left, showed up at the next meeting the following week. And right after we all trained, went into the office, and Rob sits down and he goes, all right, hey, where were all you guys last week? All you guys were supposed to be here to train. The only one that was here was this guy, and he was beating the crap out of himself. And that was it. It was that simple. I think they were having because they were doing monthly shows, and they were going to do a battle royal, and they needed bodies for the battle royal. And I was like, hey, if you guys need a body, I'll do it. I was just happy to be there. And they made the decision right then and there. They're like, no. Yeah, we can use him, but we need to put a mask on him. We don't want to waste him just yet. Put a mask on him. It's like, okay. And that's how I got that stupid blue mask on me and the Blunatic gimmick. Hey, that was a total rib. That was just, it was a blue mask. If it was a pink mask, I would have been the Pinkatic or something, or the Reditic. There was no thought put behind it whatsoever.